I'm Sarah Hammerker, Crosswalk.com contributor, and now I'm going to walk you through my article, 8 Reasons to Encourage Your Child's Daydreaming. Do you daydream? I certainly did a lot as a kid, off in my own little world, thinking about all kinds of things, riding my bike, sitting outside, sitting at the kitchen table, not hearing my mom when she called me to do something. Daydreaming has fueled my active imagination. It's one of the reasons that I write inspirational romantic suspense. I just think of a lot of things. But today, unfortunately, daydreaming has lost its luster. We're so impatient. We don't give our kids time to sit down and think, much less allow them to inhabit their own little world, staring off into space, that sort of thing. We don't see that, quote, need for daydreaming. One example is found in the film, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. The title character spends his time daydreaming about all the wonderful things that he's going to do, and eventually has his adventures on his own. But most of us, and so he doesn't need to daydream anymore, but most of us have a similar view of that. We think that it's unimportant and that it should be something that's either regulated to our littlest kids or that we shouldn't do it at all. But here are 8 reasons why your child should daydream, and you should too. Number 1, daydreaming rejuvenates the mind. It's necessary to our intellectual and emotional health. Daydreaming helps us process things. Daydreaming isn't idleness. Number 2, we think not engaged in the world, but it is a way for us to process things that are happening in the world. We should definitely make sure that our kids have time to daydream and that they're not daydreaming when they should be doing their homework. But other than that, daydreaming isn't an idle thing. It also, number 3, it reduces anxiety. And if we ever need anything more in this world today, it is to help our children know how to reduce anxiety. We imagine them, when we daydream, we imagine ourselves in all kinds of different scenarios, like standing in front of someone and giving a presentation, receiving an award, doing something heroic. While we play those out in our mind, especially when our kids do that, it helps lower their anxiety about that activity or something similar. Daydreaming also, number 4, increases creativity. Daydreaming allows our kids' imaginations to soar. They think of all kinds of weird, wonderful things. Sure, it's not all based in reality, but that's okay because it allows them to develop that creativity. It inspires imagination, number 5. We should value imagination a lot more than we do. Our kids need to have the ability to sit and think and just imagine what if. If you look at a lot of the people who have invented interesting things throughout history, they were all daydreamers as a kid. Number 6, daydreamers help kids solve problems. When we imagine a possible outcome to a problem we're having at school or at home or with a friend, they can help you kind of figure out maybe some solutions to that. Daydreaming, number 7, enriches us. We can entertain classmates, siblings, in a wider world. Think about the people who daydream. These are the authors, composers, artists, actors, musicians, and others like them. And the daydreamers share their daydreams with the world at large through this. I often daydream and think about scenarios for my books, and this is something that I do share with my readers. And number 8, daydreaming builds the foundation for the future. Again, children who daydream are the future inventors and entrepreneurs of the world. If you ask those who have started companies or invented something, many, I would hazard almost all of them would say the idea was rooted in the daydreams of their childhood or the daydreams they continue to have as adults. Here's an article, here's a quote that I want to read you from Jerome Singer in a 2013 interview with Scientific American. He said, Einstein gave a lot of examples of his own fantasies and imagery and how he then got curious about a particular area in physics, which he would then explore using his more systematic, rational approach to thinking. So in other words, Albert Einstein, a scientist, daydreamed, and he would think about these, and those things fueled his scientific studies, and he would use a more systematic approach later. If you have a child who daydreams, encourage him, encourage that part of him and her. Give them space to daydream. If you're an adult, encourage your own daydreaming. Have time set aside where you can just let your mind wander and think about all these things. You'll be much richer for it. Your children will be much richer for it. And eventually, our world will be much richer for it as we share these ideas and things that had their seeds in daydreams with the world.